Late on June 2nd, a 27-year-old man named Troy Moore was spotted at a cemetery in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. When local police arrived, they were shocked to find him setting fire to Memorial Day flags and aluminum veteran grave markers. While the physical damage totaled about $750, the act struck a much deeper chord. These markers represent sacred sacrifice, and their desecration causes a real, wounding grief for veterans and their families. This took place in one of Pennsylvania's wealthiest counties. The affluence of the surrounding community makes the destructive nature of the crime feel even more out of place. The community's outrage is valid and necessary. However, viewing this strictly through the narrow lens of a simple crime story masks a much larger, entirely invisible crisis. Behind the mugshot is another reality. Troy Moore has a documented history of cycling through institutions, shelters, and untreated mental illness that dates back to his childhood. Examining this history doesn't excuse the harm done to the cemetery. Instead, it changes the diagnosis of why the event happened in the first place. We have to look past the sensationalized headlines to see where the region's safety nets are failing. If the conversation stops at the initial outrage, we leave the conditions in place for this exact tragedy to repeat itself. In a community with the resources of Bucks County, the breakdown occurs in the spaces between programs. This is a failure of human continuity. Hospitals, shelters, and the justice system frequently operate in complete isolation. A person in crisis loops through these nodes without any steady hand connecting one to the next. Vulnerability compounds when a person hits dozens of small gaps, simply because no single entity owns the handoff. When a facility discharges someone, there is rarely a warm transfer to the next stage of care. A highly funded institutional system that cannot manage a transition functions the same way as having no system at all. Institutions often respond to untreated trauma or addiction with a door slam, ejecting individuals the moment they become difficult to manage. Peer support groups aim to fix this by providing the missing relational infrastructure, a method they refer to as the three hands. This requires having someone to regulate with, someone to relate to, and someone to route forward. It is the steady presence of human connection that prevents a person from spinning out. The absence of this low-barrier, human-centric support effectively guarantees that a personal mental health crisis will eventually spill over into the public square. Local ruptures like this are often seized by the media to fuel partisan warfare and performative outrage. If we move past the rhetoric, we find a massive set of overlapping goals. Both sides want veteran memorials protected, both want taxpayer dollars used effectively, and both prefer getting help to the sick before police intervention is required. These shared outcomes represent a civic position rather than a partisan one, respecting service, ensuring public safety, and treating illness before it leads to a crime. Treating these events as purely ideological battles prevents us from building the functional, transition-based solutions that the community actually wants. Moving forward means we must stop relying on the criminal justice system to act as the default safety net for the mentally ill. This requires investment in proven alternatives, co-responder teams that pair social workers with police, and mental health courts that divert people into treatment instead of cells. The recovery community uses a phrase to guide this work: time is the measure. It is the belief that ordinary human contact and consistent support prevent more tragedies than punishment ever will. A society is measured by how it honors its heroes, but it is also judged by how it responds to its most broken citizens.